And let's just get into it. I know that people living in London deal with a lot of fog and rain, especially in the wintertime, but on December 5th, 1952, the fog started to kill people. Yes, I wish I'm making this up. The fog was 30 miles wide, teeming with acidic sulfur particles and smelled like rotten eggs. It was so dense that some residents were unable to see their feet as they walked. By the time the murderous fog lifted 5 days later, 4,000 people were dead and 150,000 others were seriously injured with respiratory tract infections. 8,000 more people would die in the coming months, bringing the grand total of deaths caused by the fog to be at least 12,000. Humans were not the only ones affected. Thousands of animals were also killed by the fog. After this, the deadly fog came back again, killing 750 people in 1962. The government blamed it on air pollution from coal burning, but did not know exactly what made the fog so deadly. Now, according to a new report published in the Proceedings of the National Academies of Sciences, researchers from China, the US, and the UK were able to mimic the 1952 London fog in a lab and compare it to recordings of the air conditions from two heavily polluted Chinese cities, Beijing and Xi'an, and found that sulfates were a key component of the London fog. This gave the fog its smelly and toxic properties. According to lead author Renyi Zhang from Texas A&M, our results showed that this process was facilitated by nitrogen dioxide, another co-product of coal burning, and occurred initially on natural fog. Another key aspect in the conversion of sulfur dioxide to sulfate is that it produces acidic particles, which subsequently inhabits this process. Natural fog contained the larger particles of several tens of micrometers in size, and the acid formed was sufficiently diluted. Evaporation of those fog particles then left smaller acidic haze particles that covered the city. Next up, you know how this year has been kind of crazy? Insane presidential election in the US, tornadoes showing up in Rome, and it may not be over yet. According to scientists, humankind has a 1 in 500 chance of being wiped out this year. The prediction is based on the controversial doomsday argument, a probability-based theory that aims to predict the number of future members of the human race based solely on the number of humans born so far. And as we currently stand, the annual risk of global catastrophe currently exceeds 0.2%. This next story is just oh so creepy. Check out this photo. You see that little boy peeking out from the back seat? Yeah, you see him, right? The kid with the short hair. Yeah, that's a ghost. This picture was taken when Melissa Kurtz was driving her daughter Harper to a beauty pageant when Harper started to take selfies in the car, and she caught this little kid ghost in the back seat. When she saw this photo, Miss Kurtz did some research and realized that a child died on the road that they were driving on exactly 1 year ago. And she thinks the child was reaching over to Harper because she did not have her seatbelt on at the time and the ghost was just trying to warn her. And I just want to say, as much as I would appreciate it, if I'm ever not wearing a seatbelt and a ghost shows up to warn me from the back seat, I'm crashing my car. What else would my response be? Hey, psst, dude, you need to be wearing your seatbelt, man. That's how I died. Oh, wow. Thank you so much for coming from the afterlife to warn me. That wasn't terrifying at all. And finally, while we're on the topic of ghosts, let's talk about a house that is so haunted. It was legally declared haunted by the state of New York. The house is located on the Hudson River in the small village of Nyack. And this thing, it just looks haunted. Oh, and it sits at the end of a dead-end street. Fitting, right? The house was built sometime around the 1900s and has been used as a boarding school and a family residence. In the 1960s, a woman named Helen Ackley purchased it and moved in with her family. After they moved in, the family started to experience terrifying phenomena such as violent shakings of their bed, ghostly voices, footsteps. According to the family, they believed that there were either 2 or 3 ghosts that shared the home with them. The spirits were said to be from the era of the American Revolutionary War, and the family said they eventually got used to living with the ghosts. But then the family got into some legal trouble when they found a buyer for the house, but did not mention that the house was extremely haunted. The buyers were the Stambovskis, and they made a deposit. Then they saw that the house was listed on a local ghost tour, so they decided to back out, which was probably smart of them. The Stambovskis argued that it was their right to back out because they were not told that the house had dead inhabitants. A legal battle ensued. In the first ruling, the judge ruled that the Ackleys did not do anything wrong for not telling the Stambovskis that the house was haunted, but then the Stambovskis appealed and won, creating what is known today as the Ghostbusters ruling. This ruling was so strange it's still being taught in law classes all over the country and even brought up during other court cases. So in this video, we covered the killer fog of London, the world as we know it may end this year, a ghost kid shows up in the back of a car, and a house that is legally haunted. So my questions to you guys today is, do you really feel like the scientists have found the real reason behind the deadly fog of 1952? Also, what would you do if a ghost shows up in your backseat? Alright guys, thank you all so much for watching. See ya. Hey guys, it's Mikey Chen. Thank you so much for watching Beyond the Science News, and let's just get into it. I know that people living in London deal with a lot of fog and rain, especially in the wintertime, but on December 5th, 1952, the fog started to kill people. Yes, I wish I'm making this up. The fog was 30 miles wide, teeming with acidic sulfur particles, and smelled like rotten eggs. It was so dense that some residents were unable to see their feet as they walked. By the time the murderous fog lifted 5 days later, 4,000 people were dead, and 150,000 others were seriously injured with respiratory tract infections. 8,000 more people would die in the coming months, bringing the grand total of deaths